So you've got an Etsy shop, it's not going so well. Today I want to share with you 5 mistakes that you are probably making in your Etsy shop and how to fix them. Let's get started. G'day there, if you don't know who I am, my name is Jess and I have been making sterling silver jewellery and selling it in my Etsy shop, Ethereal, since 2008. In 2010 I went full-time and I've been self-employed ever since. And a few years later I started Create and Thrive in order to help makers just like you and like me work out how to be successful selling their crafts online. Okay, so I have worked with thousands of makers over the last decade, helping them work out how to sell their crafts online successfully. And I've seen people make the same mistakes over and over and over again. You know, when you work with thousands of people, you see success stories, you see failures, and you see the learning process that people go through when they're working out how to do this, how to sell craft online successfully. Specifically, obviously, today I'm talking about your Etsy shop, but a lot of what I'm going to talk about in this episode really does apply no matter where you're selling online. Number 1, the first mistake I see a lot of people make is not enough listings in their shop. Can't count how many times I've heard people say, oh, I've got my shop, I've got stuff in there, but nothing's selling. And then when I go to their shop and have a look, they've got like 5 or 10 items in their shop. This does not encourage your buyers to be confident that you're a full-time, a professional business. It looks like one of those hobby shops someone's just thrown together. And also it doesn't give people a range of items to choose from. Not only that, if you only have a small number of items in your shop, the likelihood of you being found via search is very, very low. So I always say, okay, you want to aim to at least have a full page of listings in your shop as fast as you possibly can. Now, that does not mean that you shouldn't open your shop unless you have heaps and heaps of things available. You absolutely should. I think you should start adding listings to your shop as soon as you possibly can. Because at the beginning, to be honest, nobody's really noticing, nobody's really looking when you start out. And that's why it's such a great time to experiment and to play around with things. You might be in the stage, that I was when I started out, that I was a bit of a hobbyist. I was just kind of making and experimenting lots of different things. And I was just putting them in my Etsy shop and seeing what sold basically. And I used that to develop my craft in a certain direction. So you can do that too. If you aren't sure what your brand is yet, you're not sure what your kind of core product line is yet, just put it out there, put it in an Etsy shop, start talking about it, see what gains people's attention. But you want to try to fill up that shop and get a decent amount of products in there. The magic number that a lot of people kind of talk about is 100 is a great number to aim for. Now that might not be feasible for you. You might sell something that, having 100 different products is not going to happen or will take you many years to happen. But if you can, and you are selling something that will allow, that you can create a large product line, I would advise you to do so, because when you have a lot more products, you have a lot more, searchability, people are more likely to find you and more likely to find something they fall in love with. Like, a lot of people find my shop via one listing and end up buying another one because they like the style, but it might not be exactly what they want, or they're interested enough to click through, but then they see something that they love even more. So by having that wide range of products in there, you're more likely to capture the sale. So if you are just starting out, work hard on creating more products and getting them in your shop as soon as you can. Okay, number 2 is bad photos. This is a killer. If you don't have good photos, you won't be successful. It's really that important. The main problems I see are people taking photos with flash, taking photos that are cluttered. They don't just have the item, but have lots of styling. Photos that are blurry are a definite no-no. Photos with a background that doesn't contrast well against your product. Like I sell silver jewelry. I don't like white backgrounds with silver jewelry because, generally speaking, especially if it's just silver, I find it blends into the background. It doesn't really pop, it doesn't really stand out. So I do advise you to play around with that and try to find a background that is appropriate for your product and that makes it stand out nicely. Don't use flash, and if a photo is blurry, don't use it because it just reflects badly on your brand and your business. Go retake that photo or leave it out altogether. And this is something that you won't necessarily know when you take the photo. You might have to, look at it on your desktop before you notice, oh, it's a bit blurry. But if it's wrong, go back and retake it. It's worthwhile because especially if you are creating reproducible products, which I highly recommend if you're selling online, then you really only have to do these photos properly once and you can keep using them for years and years and years. I can't overstate the importance of photos. We're living in a very image-based society now. People will be attracted by your photo, by your image. That is what is going to get them to click through into your shop. Not the description, not the title, not the tags. Those are all really important for people who are looking for what you are selling, absolutely, because you got to shop and search. But the thing that will get them to click on your product rather than somebody else's is your photo. So you really work hard on making your photos as good as they can possibly be. Good lighting, nice and crisp and clear. Make sure to create that range of product photos that show, you show your product being used or worn, to show the scale, show the front, the back, the inside, the outside, whatever it may be. Really give people a feel for your product. But that one first product shot should be something that captures their attention, captures their eye, and entices them to come in and look at more. Now, this is something I have learned the hard way. I always say when I talk about this, I recommend you go to my Etsy shop, go to my sold items, and scroll back to the very last page. So the very first things I sold, and you will see how terrible my photos were when I started out. They were awful. I did all of the wrong things. I had like a crumpled fabric background on some, I had flash photos, cluttered background, you name it, I did it wrong. And if I can learn how to do it right, you can learn how to do it right too. So really work on this. If you want more help and you really want a step-by-step guide through all of this, I do have a resource for that. It's called the Create and Thrive Guide to Product Photography, and you can go get that right now over at createandthrive.com. Just click on the shop link and that's available. It's an ebook, and you can buy that if you want the guidance, and it's actually written not by me, it's actually written by a professional photographer who specialized in product photos. I commissioned him to write the guide so that it's all very straightforward. It's basically for people who are beginner or intermediate product photographers, and we'll take you through how to use your camera, how to focus, all that sort of stuff. So photos, make sure that you do the work to work out how to take stellar photos of your products, because that, more than anything else, will elevate your Etsy shop into the I want to buy from you sphere of being. Okay, number 3 is no decent about page section. Like, this is really, really important in real estate. It allows you to showcase who you are, what you do, and why you do it. So you've got this beautiful rotating banner now and video. You can tell your story there. And frankly, you really need to be taking advantage of this, because why are people buying from you? Why are people buying from you rather than buying on Amazon or buying from eBay? They're buying from you because they care about handmade. They want something unique. They want something crafted for them. So use this real estate to tell your story and try to, make people fall in love with you and your business, basically, is what you're trying to do here. You can use those, that rotating banner to show some behind the scenes, show some, show you at work, show your family, your circumstance, whatever you choose to do there, whatever your brand story is, whatever it is that is special about you and your business, that's what you want to do here. And you want to tell your customer why they would want to shop with you. So remember to have something here that's customer focused. They care. What do they care about? Why would they choose to buy from you? Are you eco-friendly? Are there certain very special things that you focus on that they would care about, your target customer would care about? So talk about those things as well here, and really try to help them get to know who you are and encourage them to buy from you because of who you are and your business ethos, basically. So take advantage of this section, the About section of your shop. Don't just slapdash put a whole bunch of stuff up there without thinking about it. Really think about how it can tell your brand story and how it can entice people to trust you and buy from you. Okay, number 4 mistake I see people making is not having detailed policies. Now, there is a limit here on Etsy in that they have a specified, policy section where you only have certain choices. You need to make the right choices here, and you also need to be aware when you do put your policies together that the consumer law where you are will affect this as well. So if you're not already aware of what the consumer laws are where you are, go look that up and find out about that first, because that will inform your policies. In your country or your state, there might be certain laws about returns, there might be certain laws around sales, there might be certain laws around, when a customer can get a refund and when they can't. So you've got to make sure that you are in alignment with those consumer laws in your policies. So that's an important step that I think a lot of people miss. You also need to have detailed policies, not only for your customers' sake, but for you. Policies are really designed to protect you as the seller. So that's why you want to have good, strong policies in place that do protect you and mean that you don't always lose out when something goes wrong. I'll give you an example, lost parcels. This is a policy a lot of people forget to mention, but what happens if an item doesn't arrive? Who's responsible for it? Well, depending on consumer law, you might still be responsible for it in your country, even if it's not your fault it doesn't arrive. You need to be aware of that and then put that into your policies. What's your way of dealing with that? Are you going to replace the item? Are you going to offer a refund? I replace, I don't refund, because I can choose that. And that, I think offering a replacement rather than a refund cuts down the chances of anybody gaming the system and scamming you, because they're not going to buy something if they can't just get a refund for something that didn't arrive. You're only just going to replace it with another item. So think about those sorts of things as well. Another thing you can do, and that I recommend you do, is take advantage of the FAQ section under the Etsy policies to educate your customers about a lot more stuff. So there's a lot of details that you can't get into the policies because of their limited features on Etsy, but you can put stuff into your FAQ to tell your customers more about what your policies, your personal policies are. Now, technically, Etsy doesn't see these as policies, but I see them as personal business policies, even though they might not be official Etsy policies. So I think it's a really important thing to add in there. For me, it's things like the return shipping thing. I talk about, what happens if your ring's the wrong size. Since we specialize in rings, I give my customers, this is what happens when that happens. If you get the wrong size, here's the rules around that we work by. What if you need an item faster? Hey, here's the policy, the FAQ, here's the policy about that. And so over time, these will develop because you'll come up against problems and then you'll work out a policy to deal with those problems. But you can educate yourself by going and looking at people in your niche, people who make what you make or something very similar that are successful. Go look at their policies and see what they've addressed in their policies, because chances are if they've addressed it, it's something you're going to have to deal with as well. So make sure to do the work to put those in place, because it will save you money, time and stress in the long run to have good policies. Okay, number 5, our final problem or mistake I see people making, and that is descriptions that are lacking detail and enticing story. Remember, you've basically got 2 things here that are going to convince someone to buy from you. First of all is your photos, and that is the most important thing. Secondly, your description. Your description should really tell everything about the item. Imagine the person can't see it and try to describe it to them. Not only is that good for, just their knowledge, it's also good practice for you, because if you're selling outside of Etsy where the descriptions do count towards search, then that is going to help you get found in search. So make sure you don't miss any important details. Imagine, if I was buying this thing, what questions would I have about it? You want to answer any particular questions or concern or roadblock that somebody might have about buying your item in that description. So make sure you have the size, and if you're selling internationally, have your measurements in imperial and metric. I'm in Australia. I kind of understand what inches are because I do use it sometimes with my jewelry, but and I know what a foot is basically because it's the length of a ruler. But apart from that, I'm kind of lost when it comes to imperial measurements. I can't really visualize them well in my head because I've grown up using metric measurements. So make sure that you have both types of measurements in there to make it easy for people. Also talk about colors. And remember that caveat whereby the colors may look different on different devices. It's a good disclaimer to have in there if necessary. Make sure that you are giving people details about the feel, the materials. You can talk a little bit about the process if you want, but don't fall into the jargon trap. I see a lot of artists, especially people who've trained as artists, making this mistake in using jargon terms to do with their particular craft. Like, I don't know what certain there's a whole bunch of techniques and things like that in ceramics, for example. I don't know what they are. I've studied some ceramics, but I see people use all these jargony words as if it should mean something to me, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. It's okay to mention it, but don't mention it as if it's the be all and end all of the description, because people won't necessarily know what those jargon terms mean. You've got to make sure to describe your item in everyday terms that people will actually understand. So make sure to do that. Also remember to bring your customer into it. Don't just talk about the features. The features are, the size, the description, the size, the weight, the dimensions, whatever. The benefits are why somebody would buy this thing. What benefit will it have to their life? What use could it have in their life? For example, with a certain pair of my earrings, like these ones I'm wearing now, these are like my medium hoop earrings. I've literally been wearing these for the last month and I have not taken them off. I can sleep in them, I can swim in them, I can shower in them. I don't even notice they're there because they're so light. The only time I do notice is when I'm outside and it's windy, because the wind blowing through them makes this noise. But the rest of the time, they're just there and they are so light and comfortable. They go with anything I could possibly be wearing. So those are all benefits to these particular earrings. All of those things I just said are benefits of them. So those are the sorts of things that you should be having in your product description as well, telling people why your product will benefit them. Why will it make their life better? Don't forget to put that in your description. That will take your description from a dry, boring, dot point thing to an actually engaging piece of writing that will draw people in and make them think about how your product can benefit them. So make sure that you have that information in your description. And finally, if you have any special features of your product that have come up, make sure to mention them in your description very clearly. I'll give you an example. We make oxidized sterling silver wedding rings, and the first few times I sold them, it was fine, but I didn't make it abundantly clear in the description that they don't stay oxidized forever, that it wears off over time, it weathers, that's part of the process. So I had an unhappy customer or two who didn't realize this. Now I have it very clearly stated in my description, like blatantly stated, this ring will not stay black. You might have thought that would actually hurt my sales, but it hasn't at all. And it means that I don't have those customers anymore. Well, to be fair, I still have them occasionally because some people don't read descriptions. We all have to be aware of that. And in that case, you take that thing and you put it into an image and you make an image that describes that very thing, which is exactly what I've done with this one. Remember that with your Etsy photos, that you can use those image slots to educate your customer about your product as well. So if you're finding people aren't reading the descriptions, put the really important stuff in an image and put it in your description. So when they're flicking through the images, they see the info there. Pro tip for you. That's a really good one to do. So make sure that you are crafting these descriptions that will engage people educate them about the benefits of your product, and also tell them all of the features that will answer any particular questions that may pop up about your product before they can be convinced to go elsewhere. Because a huge reason that people choose not to buy is that they have an objection, a question or an objection, and they can't find the answer anywhere, and they can't be bothered to message you and find out. So you don't know how many sales you might be missing when somebody has that exact experience and then just navigates to someone else who sells something similar and answers their questions up front. So more is better. Make sure that you have all of that detail there so that your customer can buy your product with full understanding of what your product is and what it will do for them. Now, if all of this seems a little bit overwhelming, there are so many elements to having a successful Etsy shop or a successful online shop at all. I can help you with that. Coming up soon in mid-October, I'll be running my course Setup Shop. It's my flagship e-course. I've been running it since 2013. I've run it twice a year at least ever since then, and I obviously update it every year. And over 1,000 makers have taken this course over the last few years. What is it? It's a 30-day course. It's an intensive course. You get a lesson a day for 30 days straight to your email. You get access to a private, exclusive Facebook group. And during the course, I do 2 Facebook Lives where you can actually talk to me and ask me your questions about the course. It is designed specifically to take you step by step, sequentially, through everything you need to do to set up a stellar online shop for your handmade goods. Whether you are just starting out, maybe you have a shop and you aren't really sure if you're doing it right, or maybe you've had a shop for a while and you want to revamp it and go through and make sure that everything's updated and everything's working well. All of those are great reasons to come and do Setup Shop. It's super affordable. It's well under $100 for Australians and really affordable for anyone in other currencies. So come on over and check it out. Just head on over to createandthrive.com/setup shop. I'll put the link in the description and you can go check it out and find out more about it. I would love to have you join us for the course. As I said, it's happening in October 2019. And if you see this later, it will be running again in future. So just come over and check it out. And you can always subscribe to my email updates to find out when the next course is running. If you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe to my channel to make sure that you don't miss any future videos, and give it a thumbs up. That really helps. Well, it helps me to know that you're enjoying it, but it also helps other people find the videos as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back again very soon with more videos to help you create a thriving handmade business.